So welcome, guys, and thank you for coming on Farce the Nation. I'm your host, Jahi Harvey. First up in the upper left-hand corner, we have famed author Anne Stagg. They're a sex blogger, author, and poet. You can find their essays on erotica, sexual wellness, and kink, and social justice on AnneStaggWrites.com. Their Mound of Gaia erotic fantasy series is available exclusively on bellessa.co. They co-host #FetChat at #Fet_chat on Twitter, and has a weekly Twitter chat about safe, sane, consensual BDSM and kink practices. You can follow Anne on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Anne Stagg Writes.
Hello.
Thank you,
Hey,
and welcome to the show. And Jada Brent is a mother, wife, world traveler, self-proclaimed wine connoisseur, and foodie. Makes some bomb food, man, I'm telling you. Overly opinionated, social political commentary novice, not completely angry as a Black woman, but pretty easily pissed off. So welcome to the show, Jada.
Thank you.
How are you guys
I'm
doing
in love
today?
with you already.
Hey. Yeah, definitely got to check out some of your stuff. Sounds interesting. Right up my alley.
So
It's very fun.
how long have you been writing, Ann?
I've been writing since I was a wee person. Erotica, I actually started writing about 5 years ago when I became disabled. My wonderful husband suggested because I really enjoy writing fan fiction, embarrassingly enough. And it's all very porny fan fiction. So my husband suggested I give writing erotica a try, because I had just finished my first novel that I'm actually in the process of revising right now. So he suggested I give writing erotica a try. So I looked up ethical porn on Google, found Bellessa, right.
Okay, so we're gonna circle back to what ethical porn means. So,
Okay.
we're gonna stick a pin in that and come back.
All right. So I looked up ethical porn and I found bellessa.co, which is a kind of full service erotic site for women that's run by women. It's a Canadian company. And when I found them, they were brand new. Like they had just gone live as a site in January. And this was probably like in March or April. And they have an erotic fiction section. And so I decided to I wrote the first story in my erotic fantasy series for them, and it just kind of took off from there. So
where do you get your inspiration?
I have a really porny imagination.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not mad at that.
All the pun intended, right?
Oh, right. Exactly. All of it. You know, it just, I think I really enjoy stories that have, and I really like to have at least in my written porn, I very much enjoy plot. And so I just kind of write what I like. So my stories are more, I guess, some folks would call them less erotica and more blended genre, so like erotic fantasy or erotic sci-fi, or very few of them are just kind of straight up a sex scene. There usually is some form of plot in there somewhere.
Okay, so where can people find this again? Because I'm sure people are gonna want to know how to get this.
You can find my Mound of Gaia series on bellessa.co, and all you have to do is look up Anne Stagg and find the first volume in the series. There are 9 volumes right now, I believe. And you can also find, I have a lot of short fiction on my website, along with essays about kink and essays about social justice.
So one of the things that I noticed when I was a kid is like when I would look through, everybody's dad had a drawer that they didn't think their kids knew about. Like,
and they always knew about it.
And they always knew about it. I had one friend, his dad would throw rubber bands all over his collection of VHS tapes, and he would know if you mess with any of the rubber bands. So we would sneak and get the inside, we would like make sure that all the rubber bands were strategically placed back on top of the
That's
video.
awesome.
That's so great.
Yeah, man. I think, you know, as a kid and even going into manhood, like teenage years and later, I think the type of porn that you were exposed to kind of gave you, what should I say? A teaching tool for how you should interact with women during sex. And I think it gives you a terrible expectation on how sex should work.
Absolutely. I was actually going to ask Anne that because most porn is misogynistic.
Mm-hmm.
Is your writing more feminine point of view?
I identify as genderqueer. So I tend to write from either, and the way I experience gender is pretty fluid. I usually tell folks, like, you can tell based on how I'm made up and where my hair is, how I'm feeling.
Okay.
Like, I'm definitely feeling the woman vibe today.
Okay.
But yes, I do focus very intently on making sure there are things like in my writing, there's always explicit consent happening in everything that's going on, not just at the beginning, but ongoing. There's an ongoing consent discussion happening throughout the course of whatever sex someone's having, regardless of whether that's like extra kinky or just completely vanilla. And I do think that there is a lot of, that I think that we learn a lot of really bad, very awful lessons from traditional porn, the way I think that we've seen it. I think there is ethical porn out there that's being made from a woman's gaze, like you said, Jada, and it's interesting. It's been fun to and interesting and very satisfying to be kind of involved in the creation of and watch an organization grow that is really focused on women and how women are seen in porn, and really trying to change the industry for actors, not just straight actors, but for queer actors as well. Like the talent and the performers in porn, really trying to make a better world for them, so that people don't disparage them, people respect what they're doing as work, and people are thoughtful about the ways in which they engage with porn, so that people who are being really unethical and really sleazy and awful to performers and workers, because it's labor, just like any kind of labor, I think.
Right.
That their labor is being respected, and they're getting paid what they should get paid, and they have the safety and the kind of benefits that we all expect when we walk into a workplace. So
now I saw some kind of documentary, and we have Aaron Strout. Hey man, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
hello.
So let me introduce Aaron. So Aaron is a former queer activist in Southern California. He's a board member for a nonprofit organization called Youth, radical partisan associate of both BTVS and ATLA, performer, fundraiser for the Hillcrest Youth Center and LGBTQ Center of San Diego. And he studied music and computer science. He's a composer. He's a sponsor of the Buck Angel Film Anthology Collection, and he's a current vocal student in Denver, Colorado. So welcome to the show.
Well, it's not, a lot of that was former. Like, I'm not doing that at the moment.
Everything you've ever done ever, right?
Yeah.
So Aaron, you're in Denver now, but you started off in California. How'd you get to Denver?
Kind of crazy. I came out here to do some like voice coaching. And then sort of my living situation and where I was going to do the coaching sort of went nuts. And then I just finally got all my stuff together. So I'm in my own place and everything's fine now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were just talking to Anne at the top. She's an author, and she does erotic porn. And that's a very simplistic version of what she does. And we were just kind of asking her, some questions about how that goes. One of the things that I saw some documentary, or it wasn't really a documentary, it was a news item about how the porn industry is kind of consolidating ownership. Mm-hmm. So a guy made a website, I'm not sure if it was the Pornhub guy, but basically it just started putting everybody's content on his site for free.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of drove down the cost to make porn, how much porn actors and actresses get paid. And it almost like made it so it's like, you know, I would say that it basically turned it into exploitation for the people who are in the industry. And I guess some people would already say that there were a lot of people being exploited prior to that. But I mean, now the wages have even been more suppressed because ownership is kind of consolidated under a few key people. So
isn't there a lot of like, what's the right word? Real porn, like not actors, but like just people taping themselves, and isn't that kind of
well, that's kind of like what the OnlyFans thing is, right?
right? Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, OnlyFans is definitely, I have a lot of colleagues. Actually, my colleague that I host my Twitter chat with weekly has a OnlyFans site. So there's a lot of amateur porn out there. Pornhub, which is what...
Amateur, thank you, that's the word I could not bring.
My brain typically, at least once during this conversation, I will completely forget what I'm talking about in the middle of a sentence, and I just ask you, please be gentle. I'll be like, blah, blah,
Thank
blah.
God for editing.
Right. I think that sites like Pornhub, in my experience, you know, and again, I'm not a performer, but I do have a lot of friends and colleagues who do work in the visual porn medium, who have found Pornhub really is what they call a tube site. So they just download all this content, and they essentially, it's piracy. They're taking people's work product for free. That's why the phrase, if you've ever hung out the blue hellscape that is Twitter, and you've seen you've seen the hashtag sex work is work, very much so, that is really about respecting the labor of folks who are doing not just face-to-face, one-on-one escorting, but also folks who are doing pornography, who are acting and performing in porn, because their work product is so frequently stolen.
And I have a question. How has COVID affected the industry as far as actual filming?
You know what? That I do not know. I know that a lot of folks are really struggling. Like, I've seen more now than ever friends of mine who do shoot in a traditional sense are very much losing money kind of every day. There are like Bellesa.co has they have a new series called The Bellesa House, which is kind of based on something that Shine Louise, who is a porn actor and director. And she's like the most incredible human being. She's done so much for the industry and for queer performers and queer porn. She is the inventor of what they call the Crash Pad series, which is a series that is a fundamentally queer series, queer porn series that is amazing and has different body types, different, like, just everything you can imagine is in there, and it's wonderful. But anyway, they've started doing this thing called Bellesa House, which is similar to that, where porn actors can agree, performers will get together and they'll film a scene. They've been doing that through COVID, but I know that they are being very thoughtful about the people that are asking to come on and do that work. So I know that people are losing lots of money. I know that lots of people have created OnlyFans accounts and share some accounts to try and help augment income that is being lost. Because
I've seen I knew some people who are in OnlyFans now, where they were doing more modeling, and then they switched over into doing OnlyFans because COVID it dried up a lot of work and opportunity. So but I do think that you know, there's a lot of things that are happening, and I'm not saying as a, you know, from a silver linings perspective, like there are people who are trying to figure out new ways to get things done
Yeah.
in light of what we're all facing, the scenario we all find ourselves in right now.
Do the OnlyFans pages pay directly to the actors?
That's my understanding.
Is it like a Cash App kind of thing where
Yeah.
you pay? Okay.
You can tip OnlyFans members. You subscribe to, like, one of the person that I do my weekly Twitter chat with, you subscribe to her OnlyFans for, like, I think it's like $6 a month. And you can also tip her, and based on tips, she will do or requests. She'll actually do like special requests. So she'll do scenes for folks to, like, she'll run specials where for like $10 she'll do a scene for you, masturbating to your favorite song or whatever. So
Okay, so now Aaron, so how long have you been in Denver?
Oh, 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now Aaron, I was reading a Washington Post article like 5-6 years ago. And I can't remember what the article was about, but it had something to do with, you know, Black Lives. I'm not sure if it was Black Lives Matter, but it might have been something about police. I can't remember exactly what it was about, but it was before, you know, social media really took off to the point where news sites would have their own comment section instead of throwing to a Facebook page or something like that. And I just remember seeing this dude just go to work on people who were, you know, on the wrong side of history. And I sent him this long comment basically saying, man, dude, like, you're my hero. Just because, like, he was just really going and not in a way that is like trolly or you're an idiot, but just with facts, backed by more facts. And when they would throw out some red herring or some straw man, he would come back with more facts. And I was like, you know, it was so cool being a guy who is not a person of color, caring enough to stand in the gap for people who don't look like him was very admirable to me. And so I was like, I got to see more, you know, hear more what this guy's about. And so, yeah, like, super cool guy. And so I saw that you said you worked a lot with youth. So what made you want to get into that?
I mean, it was several years ago, but I was working with the youth center, the Hillcrest Youth Center in San Diego, and I was much younger. But then they started, we started having, fundraisers. Thank you for the center and for the youth center. So I got involved in that, and then I was also doing music on the side, and I got to perform with some of that stuff, and I was really happy with that. But a lot of it was, you know, youth reaching out to the adults. You know, a lot of kids going up there and being like, "We're your children," and everybody else is like, "Oh, think of the children," and we're like, "We are your children."
Right.
You know, and just like being able to do that, and I think that made a huge difference for people. You know, and we got a lot of support from the older generation in that, and a lot of activists sort of helping us understand what to do. But I think it was a really rewarding experience.
Very cool. So,
I'm sorry.
No, go for it, Jada.
I was just gonna say, are the children that you were working with LGBTQ?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I know here in Columbus, Stonewall Columbus sponsors a group called Kaleidoscope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They work with the LGBTQ youth here in Columbus, Ohio.
That's great.
And I know they do a lot of really good work.
Yeah.
Kaleidoscope
That's awesome.
is great.
What's that, Ann?
I say Kaleidoscope is great. Before I was disabled, I was a family and individual therapist, and I kind of started my therapy work doing crisis intervention with young folks and working with homeless young folks. And one of the really frequent and sad stories we saw were kids who were LGBTQIA plus getting kind of getting kicked out of their houses for being who they
Yeah.
were. And Kaleidoscope, Jada, was a fantastic resource for us.
So my question is how common is that scenario, that experience played out? I have 2 kids at home right now. One is 4, one is 1. I can't see for the life of me any reason why I would turn my back on my child. My child came home and said, "Hey, Dad, there's something I want to tell you." There's no way on God's green earth I'm turning my kid away for that. Like, it would be like, you know, okay, and you know, so what do you want for your birthday? Or
Right,
or
exactly.
whatever's happening
Right.
in life
Yeah.
at the time. Like you came from me, so
Right.
why on earth would I turn you away? There's no.
But that's almost it too. You know how people have that internalized homophobia, and if you're gay, then I'm a little gay, and I have to distance myself from that. You know, and that's a lot of what comes on in those situations. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Jahi, it's especially prevalent in the Black community, Black and Latino people of color. You know, we stand on our Bibles and everything is prayed away, and
Right.
so
You're absolutely
that's
right.
a
I
huge
won't
problem.
deny that. I will not deny that. I've heard that on several occasions. And I just, so not to be crude, so I had a conversation with a guy, and he was basically saying, man, it's all a choice. It's a choice. And my question to him was, all right, well, so how much money would it take for you to blow a dude?
Mm.
And he was like, what? No, there's no money. I was like, well, there
I
you
thought it was a
go.
choice, man.
that was his choice, right?
I think we just answered that question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then you could see like the light bulb go off in his head, like, oh, okay. Like, but you know, it's really, you know, to me, I just don't understand why that is so hard to understand. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think reason, anything that can subvert reason and your own loving nature has the capacity to make people do horrible things.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's religion, sometimes that's social pressure, you know, sometimes that's, you know, how you were raised, but anything that can change that, you know, a very good person is dangerous, you know? So that's part of why society needs to change, is because that pressure will go away. That's why religion needs to change, because that pressure will go away and they'll stop allowing or even encouraging that kind of behavior. And it's very, very sad to see somebody who you know is a good person, you know is a loving person, and then does something like this. You're just like, what the hell? One of the kids I worked with was diagnosed with cancer. And then he came out to his parents because he was like, whatever, I have cancer. And they kicked him out. And I was like, how can you do
That's horrible.
Yeah, but it wasn't that they were evil people. It was just that they could not confront the thing that they were programmed to think,
Right.
the thing that took away their reason in love, you know?
I mean, I've sat in spaces with families where I've had parents ask me how to get an exorcist for their child to get the queer out of their kid. I've had to sit in spaces where, right, yeah. and it's far more common, I think, than that. I mean, because you've got a good heart, because you love your kids, and you're in a space where you're like, I can't even imagine turning my back on my child.
yeah, man, I made it.
I think a lot of people just are so afraid and so kind of standing in this space of fear and anger that they can't see past that. They can't see past the child that they can't see past the child that they said they would love.
What do you think? Do you think it's partially that they're like, I think, Aaron, you said something about societal pressure. Do you think that part of it is parents are immediately like, what will my friends say? What will my relatives say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how does it reflect on me is a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also think Oh, go ahead.
No, please. I'm sorry.
Well, I also think that, you know, what's being used against them is their reason and their compassion in a lot of cases. A lot of these parents are thinking this is the best thing they can do for their kid. Somehow, religiously, they have to stop them from going to hell. So they're going to use as much pressure as they can on them. And if they can't, then they're going to like push them away. And it's really crazy because they're trying to do the right thing. That's what they see themselves as doing, is the right thing. And the right thing in this case, because something has, switched their way of thinking around without their consent in some ways. The right thing in this case is horrifying. Yeah.
Huh.
I was going to say, when you were talking about the whole choice option, one, I don't believe that just because I don't believe it. It's
Right.
like you asked your friend or the person about,
It doesn't, it's a real quick litmus test. It's a very quick test.
And then my question is always, who's going to volunteer for a life of ridicule and discrimination and all of these other adversities voluntarily? Like, I don't know. I mean, like, especially a person of color, my son is gay, and I knew he was gay from 3 maybe. I mean, and so when he finally came out, it was like, really? Like that was your big announcement? I thought you were going to tell me something like
and birds fly. That's amazing.
Okay,
awesome.
You got something new to tell me? Because I've been knowing this for a long time, and I mean, it doesn't change anything. But through him and his friends, I have definitely heard firsthand account, like you're saying, of people throwing their kids in the street, shunning them, not talking to them. You're dead to me, disowning them. And like you said, Jahi, there is absolutely no way. That's something that I carried in my body for 9 months, walked around, damn near died to give life to, that I'm going to shun him for any reason, especially not for something like that. I could see if he was an axe murderer or something, but even then, probably not.
And I've seen this recently. I've seen it twice in the last week, where I'll see somebody post a meme with the rainbow flag for LGBTQ, and then under it something about pedophilia or something like that. And it just, I can't let it slide because it's just wrong. It's like, all right, so you want to take the imagery of an already marginalized group and then try to apply criminality to it. Like somehow both of those things are synonymous, and it's outrageous. It's just like, to me, like if somebody throws up Black Lives Matter and then immediately, under it shows pictures of people doing drive-by shootings and selling crack.
Looting.
And setting stuff on fire like they're synonymous. It's outrageous.
Like there's anything to do between the two of those things.
Right. Because like if you look on the news, the teacher that's molesting the kids is not always molesting the same sex. There are plenty of women, especially these days. It's really weird. I don't know if it's an effect of the media itself just pulling these stories and saying this is hot now, we're going to run with it, or if there's just an influx, or is it the fact that the social media or whatever. I'm not sure what it is, but you see a lot of women molesting boys in their, like, molesting students. It just goes to show that it's, anybody can commit a crime. Sex is sex and love is love when it's between two consenting adults. It's just ridiculous when they try to throw that tag on top of it. And it's, I just think it's kind of, ridiculous, but you tend to see it, I think, especially during election years. Like you start seeing the wedge issues pop up. You start seeing a lot of memes about Black people being shiftless and lazy, and, quote unquote, the gays coming to molest your kids and sneak into your bathrooms all across America.
Why?
And my thing is, it's, just from a logic standpoint, from that whole thing. Okay, so let me get this straight. I want to, no pun intended, let me get this right. So I want to molest your kid. So instead of being his teacher or his coach or her softball coach or her pastor, I'm going to throw a wig on and run into Target. That's what I'm going to do, because that makes way more sense.
Thank you.
And the people who have these unrealistic fears are probably nobody that anyone wants anyway. They're like somebody's grandpa or some super conservative, like stick in the mud with a stick up their ass that nobody, male, female, gay, straight, bi, nobody's attracted to you. So you fall back into your hole.
Yeah, like Jeffrey Epstein wasn't, sneaking in bathrooms. You know what I mean?
I just watched his documentary. It just turned my stomach. The amount, like I couldn't believe I didn't know anything about it, like until after he was like arrested and killed himself.
Well, arrested for the second time, because the first time down here, he paid off people. He had so much power and influence, like he got off with misdemeanors and house arrest.
Yeah.
And then when
everybody knew,
in his jail arrest, he got out all day for work. What was it like? Work?
Yeah, he get work release. Are you kidding?
12 hours a day. He was free.
Are you kidding me?
And then he had his own wing in the prison for nighttime when he went there. His own wing. The corruption was just it was just amazing. And he killed himself. And we'll see if his
air quotes. I think we're all in agreement that he killed himself. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Aaron, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna ask Anne if that whole conflating like horrible things with the not horrible things that they do in the porn industry, if that's something you guys have to deal with a lot in terms of like prejudice or.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, so Anne Stagg is a pen name that I use. Mm-hmm. I don't mind I'm pretty on it. Like I keep my pen name and my business name separate because I have a social work license here in the state of Ohio, and the state of Ohio Counselor Social Work Board is really, really conservative. But yeah, I think there is this perception that, folks who are in who are in porn, folks who are sex workers who do either like cam work or who do in-person, person-to-person work, and folks who write erotica, who I don't really consider that sex work per se. I mean, I think we're kind of sex work adjacent. But I think that, yes, there is a lot of prejudice about that, and a lot of this idea that we kind of all sit around all day in lingerie and do nothing but think about sex all day long. And yeah, nothing could be further from the truth. And there is a lot of prejudice, though. I mean, and again, one of the other reasons that I have a pen name is because my husband does county work, and I mean, I'm not embarrassed by it. He's not embarrassed by it, but I don't want him to ever, lose an opportunity because he's married to someone who shows her boobs a lot on the internet. So
do you think no, so do you think that it's changed, or that the stigma has lessened at all in recent years?
A little, I think it has. I think the idea that sex work is starting to become more of a mainstream thought. I mean, like they did a big article on it in Teen Vogue about a year ago.
Oh, wow.
Which was really impressive. So I think there's still a lot of prejudice about it. I think that the media still portrays sex work, and especially sex workers of color, in really, really awful ways.
Yeah, what I see is almost like slave terms, like in mm-hmm. porn. Like you see a black dude in a video, like he massive stud, big.
Oh,
I'm like, damn, where's the auction block?
Right? Okay.
there is a wonderful, wonderful woman named Wendy Phillips who has a website called The Wenchworks. And she actually, I met her because she was a guest on our FET Chat, weekly Twitter chat, to talk specifically about triggers and psychological triggers and post-traumatic stress disorder in kink. And the kind of inroad that she was talking about that was about, because she's a Black woman, the really, really horrible feelings she has when she sees porn that is slave-based. And when people approach her because she is her website is amazing, but she did an entire really lovely essay about how when she came out and said, like, I respect your right to do whatever you want when the door is closed, but if you're going to be in a public space and come at me or are talking about Black people being slaves, like, that's not okay.
Right.
And the amount of crap that people blew her over that was astounding to me.
Well, there's like a whole genre of kink and like FET that lends to that, correct?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like play.
Yeah. Race play is a big deal, and there is quite a lot of it, and I don't get it, and I think that especially in public spaces, I think it is so hurtful to so many people that, you know, it just, Wendy, I'll shoot you the link to this because her essay on it is just stunning.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll post it in the video.
Yeah, she's a person you should think about having on. She really is.
Oh, for sure.
Brilliant
I'll
woman.
do that. I'm for the convo. So I've noticed in porn too, like, and Hannibal Buress does a really good bit on it. He talks about racism in the porn, in the comment section in porn. He's like, you know, the headline pretty much told you who was gonna be in it. Your racism can't beat you masturbating at the same time. Like, I hate these Negroes, but they have such great on-camera chemistry. God.
Oh my God, that's funny.
It's really crazy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I already said that half of the Klan, you know, are cuckolds, and that's part of their issue is, you know,
yeah,
they have a little envy going on.
Aaron?
I was gonna say about racism in porn, like in the gay porn, it is not even trying not to be there. You know?
Oh,
really? Wow.
Oh no, everything is thug this and thug that, and it's just right out there. You know, and I mean and you guys were talking about homophobia in the Black community. Racism in the gay community is horrifying, and it's completely unchecked. It's not the same kind. It's not the I hate, you know, these people. It's more of the dehumanizing. You're an accessory to me. That kind of
wow.
Yeah, very much.
See, now I didn't realize it was that bad until, you know, I started having more friends that were gay. Like, I just always felt like, okay, I'm a marginalized individual. I understand what it's like to be prejudged. Being a big Black dude that walks in a room with a deep voice in this color, like, not just Black, but, you know,
real Black,
Wakanda Black, right? Killmonger Black, M'Baku Black. So I walk in the room, it's problems, you know what I mean? So I got to have the biggest, brightest smile to kind of disarm people and have a really, really, really great personality, because it's also a defense mechanism, right? And you learn that growing up over time. But what it also gave me was empathy. And so when I run into other people who are marginalized, I don't care if you're, handicapped, disabled, gay, or, some other marginalized group, whether it's race-based or whatever, my first thing is like, there is at least some commonality there that I understand you, because I also understand what it's like to be judged by the group as opposed to you, the individual, which I think is one of the things that, if you're white and straight, more often than not, you're going to be judged as yourself, as an individual, singular person, as opposed to when I walk in, I am them,
Right.
as opposed to when you walk in, you are you. So I was really surprised when I started having more gay friends, and I would see some of their comments, especially like when there was the Stonewall thing here. It was here in Columbus, right?
Yeah, it was Pride. 2 or 3 years ago, there was a big
Black Lives Matter showed up, and then and Stonewall here in Columbus had a bunch of Black protesters arrested, and they had these pictures that were and I'm gonna post them in post, but of these protesters, and you saw the comments, and the comments were like the same comments that you would see at like a Trump rally, or that they just learned how to actually go somewhere without causing trouble and follow the rules and, do what the officer. I'm like, wow.
But then this year they flipped it with the whole George Floyd thing.
Yep.
And was completely inclusive, and we're standing with you. We're all marching together. And so I don't know if they actually got the hint, or if it felt to me like this was the new bandwagon to jump on. I don't know how sincere all of the allies really were. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just like the Me Too movement last year or the year before last. It was like, oh, now, Black Lives Matter, and not just to Black people, but to everybody. And especially when it went into corporate and into,
you see like the Boy Scouts of America talking about Black Lives Matter. I'm like, what reality am I living in? Like, I never thought I would see like Colin Kaepernick get fired from the NFL and then show up as a brand ambassador for Nike, like the biggest sports apparel company in the world. Like, it's crazy.
Right.
What do you?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was going to ask Jahi and as well as the both of you, what do you think about the whole diversity and inclusion? Like, especially in corporate America, that's been the big hot word now. My issue is, like you had mentioned with your ideals about division in the LGBTQ community, Jahi, I feel like they throw everybody in the pot together. So literally my job, our diversity inclusion is Black people, gay people, Asian people, physically handicapped people, women. Like, I'm like, okay.
Are they divided like that, or are they just saying?
What I'm saying is that's what comprises our diversity and inclusion. Anyone that's basically not a straight white male. And my thing is, like you were just talking about your experience as a Black man, I can't take this off. People can hide their sexuality, or, if they have maybe not a physical disability, but like maybe they have a mental disability, or,
it's not immediately present and visible when unless you speak and have a real conversation, you may not see it.
Exactly. And so I just kind of feel some kind of way where it's like, oh, just throw anybody that's not a straight white man in the same pot, because it's not the same experience.
Yeah.
Aaron?
I think it's like it's the America is the soup, like the
melting pot.
The melting pot, and then a better way to look at that is like America is a fruit salad. Yes. I like it better because it identifies and gives appreciation to each different thing and acknowledges we all work together. Right. And to the extent all the diversity together thing, while it's not wrong, it's also a little bit like the All Lives Matter. It's like a less hostile version of that, where it's like, oh, let's just take all of you together. We want to identify anyone's specific needs, and we'll just put you all in a pot, and then, you know, everybody gets to be.
It's like,
yeah,
it's kind of like the aisle in the grocery store where it's like ethnic, and then you have like Mexican, Somali, Nepali, like all their stuff is on the same 3 shelves. Or if you go to the hair product section,
Right.
it's
Oh
the
my
ethnic
God.
section, and it's like Soul Glow and
and it's not even like they could be separated by aisle, but they're not. They're all put in the same
exactly.
Right.
Not even separated by shelf.
No,
On
no,
the
you
same
walk
shelf.
3 products down. Oh, I'm in the Mexican area. Okay, all right, that's
Yeah.
nice.
I think there is I have Jada, I think the diversity, I absolutely agree with you. I think the diversity thing in corporate culture is lip service. I think it's all CYA.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to get sued.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I wonder, there's a I don't know if you, Kimberly Crenshaw, who is a professor at Columbia, I think, developed the theory of intersectionality, which is what I think we should be teaching pretty much everywhere, instead of diversity, because intersectionality talks about marginalization and identity in the ways in which all those things intersect. Like, if you are a Black woman, you can't take that color off. And so you're
at the bottom of the barrel.
Right. You experience oppression on multiple axes. So you experience the oppression of being a woman, and you experience the oppression of being a Black woman. Those two things aren't separated. And I think that is where the conversation needs to go, because I think, honestly, I think that's one of the things that will hopefully educate the Karen factory out, I would hope, out of existence. I don't know, the theory's been around for a long time. So
I have to research intersectionality. I've never heard of it in those terms.
Oh, Kimberly Crenshaw is brilliant. She's amazing. I will send you information about it. But I think that sense of intersectionality is where diversity trainings need to go, because I think you can't throw it all together and say one experience is like the other, because they're not.
Right.
I mean, I'm pansexual and I'm genderqueer, and I am so privileged because I am white and I am femme presenting. Like, I'm not going to walk down the street and people are not going to see me like another trans individual who might be, you know, who presents in an entirely different way, in a much more but in a much more clockable way. Or a Black trans woman who, you know, is
Right.
Talk about the bottom of the barrel. I mean, those women are being murdered at.
I didn't realize how bad it was until, you know, I hate to sound so ignorant and sheltered, but I think if you're not in you live your own experience, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
so you just don't know what you don't know until you know.
Right.
And
Right.
so I was watching, my wife and I watched the show Pose.
My favorite. I
Oh.
live for it.
And like
Live
Billy
and die
Porter,
for it. I just need the season to come back.
my wife
Yes.
and me being a straight Black male, you know, I watched the show and I'm looking at all these women, and my wife, sometimes, like, I get on her nerves because we'll be watching it and you'll see, like, I'm just saying, almost like this, like, you know how you if you sit in the back of a car with no windows, your brain feels like you're moving, but your
Mhm.
eyes don't see what your brain sees. You know, so, you know, watching Pose, you see women, I think you use the term clockable, Anne.
Yeah, clockable is a word, and it's sometimes used in the trans community for folks when they're talking about whether they pass or not.
They can exactly. So you're seeing, and feel free to correct me if I'm using the wrong terminology, but you'll see on Pose, you'll see women that are passable and women that are not, and they're living their lives. But at the same time, you know, me in my straight male experience is looking and saying, I'm so used to seeing what society and the media says, a transgender person looks like, and usually it's in a negative light. And, they, especially like in movies, from maybe 10, 15 years ago, when you saw it, even in comedy, it was like Jamie Foxx dressed up as a woman. And, but then you see like, a show like Pose, and it's talking about these real people's lives and how they present, and what they had to go through early in the fight for LGBTQ rights, and even issues they had in their own community. I was like, again, mind blown. Like, wait a minute, two marginalized groups. And they would go to, like, I guess, gay clubs and get kicked out. Like, I was like, that happens? Like, is that real?
Oh yeah, that's why the Stonewall riots like were such a big deal. That whole first, in the first season of Pose, the whole there's a storyline where Fred, the character, see, I told you this would happen. Fell right out of my head.
Alexa.
Yes, when she's trying to go to a bar to celebrate, right? And no one will let her in. Like, one of the reasons the Stonewall Inn in the late 60s was being raided so frequently by police because it was one of the few places trans women of color could go and not get kicked out.
That's really?
Yeah. So that's, I mean, like, it was a place where marginalized folks, like the most marginalized of the communities, could go and just be together and see each other. And that's why it got so frequently raided by cops. And two of the women who were at the forefront of that revolution, and I mean, honestly, there's a lot of contention over what actually happened on the night of this night of the Stonewall riots. But two of the women who were integral to that movement were Marsha P. Johnson, who was a Black trans woman, and Sylvia Rivera, who was a Latina trans woman.
Wow.
And Sylvia Rivera, there's an amazing speech she gives shortly after there's a video of it shortly after the riots that she gives in, I want to say in Times Square at a rally that is incredible, but it is very much about that. You can't just focus LGBTQIA+ liberation on straight white men.
Right.
Because
gay
that's
white men
not
in that.
What? Oh, straight white gay white men. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, you can't just focus the liberation on gay white men. That can't just be the face of this movement, because this movement has to be inclusive.
Jahi,
go ahead.
no, please. I'm sorry. We keep doing that.
Okay, me too. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things that you were talking about. First is intersectionality. I think that's a great way to explain what's going on with the gay and the Black community, because, oh my God, there are gay Black people. They are both gay and Black, and they're getting it from both sides, and that's a real intersectional problem. And the other thing that I want to say is, Jahi, when you were talking about your reaction to that show, it's like culture shock. But in this case,
yes. And I was kind of like pondering whether or not I was even going to admit that, because I feel so embarrassed to even say like I felt that way. But it's one of my favorite shows, and I see like I was introduced to Billy Porter and all of the women that are on that show. The one that does the great speeches and does the great reads. She was the mother who was mean, but also, gets in everybody's ass at the same time. And she was and she ended up being the person at the front of like a high-end restaurant. And she it was just so crazy to me. And like, I think that was probably a better way to say it, Aaron. I wish I should have consulted you before I opened my mouth. Culture shock.
Yeah.
That's a better way to say it. But
you can also say gender shock in this.
Gender shock. Yes, absolutely.
And I don't think you should be embarrassed to say that. I think we wish more people would say that, because if everybody, when they're faced with something new and something they're not used to, responds by just like hiding it and not talking about it, that's not going to help anybody. Other people need to hear that you had that reaction too, and they're like, oh, it's okay, I'm not a horrible person. This is just a stopping point that I went to.
And I think what it's doing now, and the media is a two-edged sword. I think that having these conversations and so many media avenues are giving rise and giving exposure to people who otherwise would have never had it. Would Pose have ever been on TV 20 years ago?
Oh God, no. Yeah.
Not even 10 years ago.
5 years ago, right? So I think I heard, I think Trevor Noah said, ignorance can't survive once it's exposed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like exposed to light. And if you marginalize and push away ignorant people, they just commune with more ignorant people, and they stay in echo chambers of ignorance. And so it's kind of like, I think, the upside to social media and everyone having camera phones and everybody having the ability to upload and share their own personal experiences is that it has made the world such a smaller place. So that if you were in a landlocked place in the middle of America, you can go online and realize you aren't alone. You can find people that can identify with your experience. And at the same time, you can connect with people who have nothing to do with how you view life and how you've experienced life, and you can find out more information, and it can change you on a fundamental level. There are people who I talk to every day. Like I talk to Mormons who lived out of the country for the last 3 decades. And they're like, wait, I had a guy the other day tell me somebody posted, they said, this is the new Black Lives Matter flag. And it was watermelon seeds and green and dark green stripes on a watermelon flag. And I was like, yeah, see, I'm pretty sure that this person doesn't have philosophical differences with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm sure it's something entirely different. And the guy goes, what's the significance of Black people in watermelon?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, he had no clue because he's been living in Europe for the last 3 decades. He had literally no clue, So, but social media makes the world such a smaller place that you can learn from other people, and you can, they say people learn and understand things better from people whom they trust and whom they regularly associate with. So if all I see you as is from a macro perspective, and I look at you and you don't see Jahi, the person, because you don't know me, you see Jahi, a representative of all Blackness, right? And I don't know Aaron, and all I see is, he represents all gayness in America, and all gays across the planet.
There was a vote. They decided it was me.
We all had to write in.
He's the gay delegate, right? So, so like you look at people like that, but then when you get a chance to actually know people and you say something that might be ignorant, and somebody that's not unlike you challenges you on it, it gives you more pause to think and hopefully grow,
Well, that's what I was going to say, Jahi. The latest round of Black Lives Matter, and like you said, and a lot of the somewhat corporate lip service, but I do have a lot of—
I never did answer that question, did I? Go ahead, Jada.
A lot of non-Black people who I consider friends and who are in my circle, and they reached out, and it was interesting because like you said about Pose, they didn't know what to say or do or how to feel, but they were just like, how are you? Are you okay? You know, after George Floyd especially.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm not okay. But I wasn't okay a year ago or 3 years ago or 5 years ago.
Ahmaud Arbery, like, yeah.
This is the country we live in, that I was born in and have been raised in as a Black woman. So this is it. So just
You're
because
right.
you're seeing it now and your blinders have come off, this
Right.
is not a new experience to me.
Part of the problem, sorry.
No, go for it.
Part of the problem is that you're not shocked by it.
Right.
You know, like this is not a shock to you; it's a shock to them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the advent of camera phones has made that more. It's made it more accessible. So as before, when Richard Pryor or comedians from 20 and 30, 40, 50 years ago, Red Fox, were talking about police brutality, all you saw were their bits on stage.
Right.
You or Sanford and Son talking about the police coming to beat somebody up. You just saw Fred Sanford. You didn't see the pain that was behind those jokes, right? And nowadays, you can turn on, Facebook has algorithms where, oh, you want to see Black people get beat up? You click on that video, and then you can scroll up, and you can see all the people get beat up. Like, it's really like that simple. And I think it's made it so it's so accessible to see. It's hard to deny, and it's hard to ignore. And so I think that's one of the things that's kind of heartened me recently in recent years. And I noticed it after Philando Castile. I had to go and do a conference up in Minnesota. And one thing I noticed up there was like, wow, they have real live Native Americans, which I had never seen before. Like, Chris Rock does that whole bit about, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. And it's all Puerto Ricans with feathers. But like, you go up to Minneapolis and I saw actual real Native Americans and the Black Lives. And where did I see them? At a Black Lives Matter rally. And I didn't see any Black people. Like, I almost cried because I had never seen people that cared about issues that didn't, particularly affect them.
Right.
And it was such a beautiful experience.
I said that, it's kind of like when we see the poor children in Africa with the little flies buzzing around their head. You feel bad for them. You're like, oh, that's so sad. But you're removed from it. And I think that we live experiential lives. So I'm a Black woman. I've seen this happen time after time again. This happened to people I know personally. I've been pulled over. This is my reality.
Right.
But some white person who lives in suburbia may never have been pulled over, no matter what, or if they are, it's, fix that taillight or,
Yeah, so it's hard to actually fathom that there are police that will treat you bad just because you don't look like them. Like there have been, like, typically what I would get from my white friends would be, yeah, I mean, you've had run-ins with cops, but I have too. But I had run-ins because I was drunk and I was disorderly. And they're leading into the whole thing of, surely I caused my own fate, so you must have caused yours somehow. And my response is, oh no, I was at Burger King buying a Chris sandwich. Oh, I was dropping off Christmas gifts. I don't know about you, but I was doing I was withdrawing money from an ATM. I don't understand, the whole thing about wanting to fight cops and all that. Like, you out of your fucking mind? Are you crazy?
Right.
Like,
you're asking to die.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want them problems. Are you out of your mind? Like, that guy has a gun on him legally, and he can shoot you legally and go home and clock out. Are you kidding me? Like, who does that?
The talk that I had with my kids that you will have with your sons,
right? And that I have
our
with
parents had with us. I guarantee you, no white family is having with their kids a talk about what to do when the cops pull you.
Man, look, I've seen videos where like people are like getting smart with cops and like trying to, I'm like, are you, like, it makes me, I'm afraid watching it, and I'm like I'm behind a screen and it's already happened, and I'm terrified. Like, are you, like, hey man, chill out.
Right.
I don't want to see anything happen to you. So there's that. Back to the whole thing about diversity in business. I feel like there's not enough of it in the right settings. Like you said, Jade, I think they do it for lip service to check off a box. But I think if they put more Black people and people of color and queer people in rooms where decisions were made, it would prevent a lot of missteps that you end up seeing. If there was one Black person in the room when Kylie Jenner did that Pepsi commercial where she drinks a Pepsi and ends Black Lives Matter and police brutality, I guarantee you that would have never been greenlit. Or the H&M sweater with the smartest monkey in the jungle or whatever it was.
Wow.
Yeah, like we're all saying, "Oh my God," right? Because all you needed was one person in the room. All you needed was one. I guarantee you they would have said,
"Don't do that." Nah, you don't want to do that.
So do we want to do that? So yeah, I mean, just having and it gives you other avenues. Like, there's nothing worse to me than seeing a commercial that was obviously written by white people and aimed at Black people. It is so patronizing.
The Walmart holiday commercials where everybody's cooking collard greens, I hate those.
Everybody dancing down the aisle and doing the
Soul Train line
to go pick up some turkeys.
Whose Thanksgiving is this? This is not my family's Thanksgiving.
Or like the old McDonald's ads in the 80s.
Oh,
they're freestyling for a Big Mac.
What was it, Clifford or Carlson, whatever, the guy that worked at the McDonald's?
Oh, Calvin,
that was
good work at McDonald's. I heard you own McDonald's, baby. Not yet, Grandma, not yet. Yeah, I think that we would prevent so many missteps. Just having one in the room, or on writing staffs. Like, I remember Sex and the City was my wife's favorite show, right? And there was an episode where I think it was Samantha was dating a Black dude, and they went and so she had to meet his Black family, and his sisters were not on board with him dating her. And so they were about to fight in the middle of the club, and the bouncers are like trying to break it up, and they're like, "Come on, guys, keep it real. Keep it real." All right, first off, you used the term wrong. So I'm like, so now I'm not even in the zone of the show. Like, you totally took me out of it, because now I'm not thinking about the show or the plot. I'm thinking about who the hell wrote this, and why didn't you have one Black person in the room that could do this right? Or like Vanity Fair shooting Simone Biles for the cover of the magazine again. And, and, you know, when there are plenty of Black photographers who are good at shooting melanin in the right light to get the best pictures, or Black filmmakers who are very good at doing that. So most recently, the woman, I can't remember her name. I think she was on this month's cover of Vanity Fair. She was on that show, How to Get Away with Murder. You know,
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis. So she's on the cover this month, if I'm not mistaken. And she was photographed by a person of color, and I think a gay person of color. And he's the first person, Black person, to ever be a photographer or to have the cover of Vanity Fair in 2020. Oh. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was because of what happened with the Simone Biles cover.
Well, Billy Porter is on this month's edition of Essence. He's the first male on the cover of Essence magazine.
Really? Really?
Yes. And he's in full regalia.
Good for him, man.
Yes.
That is my dude, man. I love I love the stuff that he says. I love his personality. Like, on Pose, like I feel like he steals like every scene he's in.
Yes. And he's so talented.
He's amazing.
Singing ability, incredible.
Did you see his it was right after the George Floyd murder. He did a series of live Instagram sessions, and he did an incredible I'll see if I can find it. I'll send it to you can send it around. He talked a lot about and he got a lot of a lot of blowback from it, but he talked a lot about being gay in the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And he's brilliant. And so he's just like remarkably talented. And yeah, I
have a friend who's gay and Black. And for the longest time, you know, in our community, Jada, I'm sure you know this, is don't ask, don't tell. You
Absolutely.
got that one uncle or cousin who's never, ever had a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and everybody kind of assumes, but you're like, well, maybe he or she is just very, very, you know, private about that girl that they're dating, and maybe they're just very masculine or very, very effeminate. And this was kind of our relationship, you know, for a long time. And I just like, he's like a brother to me, and I love the guy. And, you know, I just remember one time and I never asked, and I just was like, well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. And we were watching Beyonce or something like that. And, I just remember saying she was doing some dance, and I was just like, damn, did you see Beyonce? He was like, yeah, her shoes don't match. I was like,
we're looking at different things.
Yeah, right.
We're definitely looking at different things on Beyonce.
So fast forward like 10 years later. It was literally like 10 years later, I think. And he was like, I forget, something happened, and he was afraid that it was going to come out that he was gay. We'd never had the conversation before. And he was like, man, I think they're going to find out. And I was like, what? He was like, you know. And he was like, what? And I was like, that you're gay? He's like, yeah. And I was like, bro, trust me, man. If you're in the closet, the door's glass. We all know.
Like everybody knows it.
I like the
it's
new
okay.
slap, yeah.
And it's okay. We love you, man. And you know, and to this day, I don't know, you know, if he's out. But you know, my thing is like I just can't imagine what that experience is like, saying to yourself, like, I must keep this part of myself secret. I feel like it's so sad that, you know, in this society, we make people feel like they have to be that way, that they have to keep this to themselves, especially, you know, in my own, you know, from my own experience. I can only speak for my own community. It's definitely a don't ask, don't tell thing, you know, and that's really, it's a shame. Aaron, from your perspective, did you ever was it ever a struggle for you to say, should I say this out loud or publicly, or was it easy?
It was not easy. My family is very religious, but it was also, to me, like, I had sort of been in the closet since I was like 4. And so by the time I came out, it was less of a guys, I'm gay, blah, blah, blah. It was a more like this is just what I am. This is definitionally what I am. So I can't be dishonest about that, you know? And that kind of worked for me and against me. I think other people that I know, it's sort of like a self-mutilation. And the longer that they go, the more they try to cut off their personality, you know, and form it into something else that other people will be fine with, you know? Yeah.
So what do you think about when you see politicians that are ultra conservative, and then you find out that they've been pushing to kind of remove rights and dismantle, you know, gay progress, and then you find out, he or she's been gay for you know, they've always been gay, but they've been, you know, presenting themselves as a totally different image, and actually destroying their own community and people that are just like them.
Mike Pence is gay. No way. I have a very brief comment about Mike Pence. I won't say it. I won't say it here. I'll say it later at the end. But
I mean, it's at the point now where if there's a conservative Republican legislator, whatever, they are specifically, legislating against gay rights or against queer rights or trans rights, they're gay.
Yeah.
They are, because they're going to come out as gay within the next 10 years.
Yeah, like
self-hatred.
Yeah, my thought on it always is like, well, if your mind is on something that is totally none of your concern, like this is not on any top tier of your priority list, why is this your priority? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, why does Mike Pence care? Why does he care enough to want to put people in jail? Like, that's way too much caring.
Right. Why does he care enough to want to torture young children?
Right.
Torture kids. He
he's the guy that
conversion therapy.
Yeah, the conversion therapy stuff.
He is an atrocious human being.
Yeah.
And I get very. I don't know about you, Aaron. Or Jada or Jahi, I get so radically angry at that. We have a very close family member who is very closeted and will occasionally stick his little toe out and then run back in the closet. And
man,
he was over one night and we found, this was years ago, this was right after the election, the 2016 election, and he said he voted for Trump. And oh, Jada made the exact face I made. and then it was trying to be nice for a couple of minutes, and then I just exploded when how could you literally just betrayed your own community. Like, how can you look at that platform
and say, like, this is my thing, this is my guy?
Right. Do you hate
the same way that Black people vote for Latinos, women? I mean,
what?
It's true. It's true.
You hate yourself so very much that you are willing to, it's infuriating.
Yeah, I think for me, like, when I see not every Black person, because there are, I don't want to say tiers.
Diamond and
Black. There are Black conservatives. Like, there is Michael Steele, and then there is like Diamond and Silk, Candace Owens. Like, you go up the ladder out in the West, like, and you say, like, man, damn, like, how can you say these things? Like, you said it on camera. There's video evidence of you saying it. I don't believe you believe it. Like, I think they say it because there is money to be made in that rhetoric emerging from a Black mouth. Like, and it will say,
the people that he pays to be directly behind him at every rally.
Yes.
There's always a Black family directly behind him.
With a shirt on that says "Blacks for Trump."
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Like, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Absolutely not. That guy.
I hate that guy.
Because he's awful. He's so awful.
Yeah, he says some really outlandish things.
Yeah, and
despicable things, really.
Yeah, no, completely despicable. And he does it because it's making him a ton of money.
I don't get it, man. Like, trust me, I want to make a ton of money. I would love to make a ton of money. I would love to see a ton of money. If you have a ton of money, hand it to me. I would love to. But I guarantee you, I would never say the things that some of these people say.
Yeah.
I don't, for any amount of money, because I would have to go home and look at myself in the mirror.
And
you know.
kids, yeah.
So yeah, it's really crazy to me. But we are on politics now. So what do you think about this upcoming election, where we currently are? I don't understand how there were signs that said in 2015, 2016, gay is for Trump, rainbow flags with MAGA on them. And as soon as he gets in office, turns around and tries to say that transgender people can't serve in the military. Chris Rock said, like, you don't want a gay guy to serve because he's, because he's gay? Like, does he want to shoot a gun? Does he want to go fight in that war?
Right.
I don't.
Right.
So if he wants to take my gun and go do it, let him go do it. You know what I mean? So I just don't understand how people get hung up on nonsense. Like my brain is cynical and pragmatic.
Mhm.
You know, what does that have to do with putting a gun in your hand and going to go shoot somebody in a war? You need soldiers, right? That guy wants to go. I say give him a gun. Give her a gun. Let her go do her thing. You know?
hate trans people so much that you won't even let them die for your country.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? How can you be that hateful?
Yeah, like and it's really sad. It's really sad that we're and you know it's all wedge issues. I feel like the Republican Party at this point is grasping at everything to pull in. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel for the votes that used to be bread and butter for them in the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, which is, you know, straight white males from middle America or with middle America ideals, and totally oblivious to the fact that this country is changing, society is changing. I mean, it's evidenced by the fact, I mean, going back to the whole Black Lives Matter thing, like 4 years ago, Colin Kaepernick couldn't find a job. Now he's brand ambassador for Nike. Japan is having Black Lives Matter rallies. Japan, it has 3 black people. You know?
And they're in the U.S. military.
Right. Trump's Tulsa rally was shut down by K-pop fans.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about right now? So I say that to say, you know, so conservatives are saying, well, we need to find, and not even all conservatives at this point, because I think a lot of them are scared. They see what's coming in November. They know they hitched their wagon to a weirdo, and he's just going like full blown. You know, we're not gonna do dog whistles today. You know, we're gonna do bullhorns. We're gonna do airplane, the airplane with the banner behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think like that's kind of where he is in some of the rhetoric he says. Like you say out of one side, you know, yeah, it's tragic that George Floyd got killed, and then say with a straight face, but more white people get killed. Like, you know, and how dare you say that black people should be mad more white people get killed than black people by police. But even if that was true, like the next question would be, and you're cool with that though?
Right.
Right. Let's say it was true. You're fine though. Like, it's cool. We got enough white people. We can get a couple people killed by the cops, and that's okay. Like I don't know, man, but it just seems like they're just going for that bottom of the barrel. So like, you know, all the wedge issues they can find that are just deplorable.
Right.
So just in order to scrape up those last bastions of ignorance and get them to the polls, you know.
Well, they know that he is such a loose cannon. Like you can't ever let him off the leash or go off script because he has zero filter. Like this man literally has no filter. Whatever he thinks just comes out of his mouth. He just has diarrhea in the mouth. And because he is so off the rails, they're just, like you said, grabbing at straws. So now it's the fear tactics. It's all of the 911 calls and, you know.
Because they're like
defunding police. So,
Aaron, in Denver, are you guys considered a purple state, like a battleground?
Kind of, yeah. It depends on where you are, because we have Colorado Springs, which is like one of the most conservative places in the world, and you know, we have Denver, which is much more liberal. So there is kind of a tension between them. But here in Denver, it's been mostly positive, I think.
See, because like our commercials, the commercials that we see here in Ohio, you see like they'll show clips of people getting beat. Like there was an old white lady. She's calling 911 as an intruder is breaking in her house. And at the same time, they're showing Biden and saying, he's totally on board for defunding the police. And then on the phone, the operator is like, we can't answer your call. we'll get back to you in 5 days. The police have been defunded. And then a thug runs through the door and tackles grandma, and then it says, I'm Donald Trump. I approve this message. Like, those are the kind of ads we see here in Ohio. So,
yeah.
And they'll get they'll get greasier and greasier as we get closer to November.
Right. The closer we get to the election, and you're right, it's all red meat for the 32% of people that are still willing to brave, a deadly pandemic.
Yeah.
To go out because they
go
don't
to his rallies and everybody catch coronavirus.
Right.
Yeah, it's so crazy, man. And there are so many people who don't believe it's real. And I tell people, like, when they say, well, I mean, do you know anybody who died from it? I'm like, yeah, my dad died from it.
Right.
He called me and we talked about, he was a big political wonk. So we would always talk politics. That's kind of the thing that connected us. And we were talking about how silly it was that people weren't taking it seriously. And I was like, yo, I got to get off the phone. I got to go talk to all these employees. And he was like, man, I'm so proud of you, man. I just want you to know I'm proud of you. That was the last conversation we had. He got sick. He went to the hospital. 7 days later, he was gone. And that was that. So when people talk about it from a perspective of 145,000 people dead, it's easy to talk about it in the macro. But when you talk about it from an individual perspective, like, there are people's families that'll never be the same.
Right.
Yeah, it really, there'll be times when I'm sitting saying, like, man, I would love to talk to my dad about this cool thing I'm going to do. And then it hits me that, he doesn't exist anymore, and it's because of a virus that you can't see, and it's something that couldn't be avoided from a perspective of, you can do everything that you can do, but then the rest of society has to do the same.
Right.
So when I hear people talk about it like it's politics, instead of just saying, put your mask on and let's get this thing over with, because there are people that are dying that don't need to die.
Right.
Everybody will die one day, but they don't have to die like this. Yeah. And it's so callous and so selfish to talk about it from a perspective of conspiracy theory.
Right.
Shut the hell up, put the mask on, and let's get past this.
My rights. That's my favorite one. Well, what about my rights not to die because you don't want to wear a damn mask? Like, seriously?
Yeah, exactly. It's really crazy to me. So
betrayal, kind of, it's kind of half the country is betraying the other half of the country in a big way.
And it's really and it's so sad because you could be in the minority and still kill a bunch of people because it's a contagion. You know what I mean? So I have to give my governor, Mike DeWine, props because, he made it a statewide mandate and he's a Republican. I think it's one of the advantages of being in a purple state. You can get Republicans with common sense, with good sense. Kasich endorsed Biden, which is, unheard of.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it's kind of cool to be in, and I'm not exactly a Kasich fan. I remember when he tried to crush the unions with Senate Bill 5 7-8 years ago, or when he was governor. And my friend and I went to a union meeting trying to figure out how we could destroy him. Right. So, but I say that to say, like, from a political standpoint, we tend to have purple states can generate people with common sense on both sides, because you have to fight for every vote. If you're in a place where it's pretty much a done deal and the primary is where the true fight is going to be, everybody is going to be in a rush to run to the extreme, and you get the Steve Kings of the world,
and perception is reality. When we thought Bush was the worst thing ever to walk onto the seat, I would take 10 Bushes now.
We were so naive. Like, it's so crazy now that like you remember when they said, well, people like Bush because you can have a beer with him, and you're like, oh man, dude, kiss my ass, right? But then now compared to Trump, you're like, Bush showed up, I'd slide him a Bud Light,
Exactly.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think part of it is they're all willing to, there's still a large base of Republicans who are willing to vote for him because they're getting what they want. All they wanted were those Supreme Court seats.
Yeah, and that didn't even pan out. It didn't even
Right, and it didn't even pan out for him all the way.
I need
Yeah.
RBG. Somebody needs to bubble wrap her
Oh,
till
please.
January, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just bubble wrap her.
Put her in Michael Jackson's cryogenic
The
chamber.
cryo
Right.
We can't lose another one.
Put her in that thing that they put Austin Powers in, man.
Right. A
You know.
giant hamster ball with bubble wrap in it.
Where is she? Oh, she's on sabbatical right now.
Yeah.
But she's still voting
Fine. She's
by
still
proxy.
voting.
Put her in whatever they put Demolition Man in, man. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. We just need her to stay alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy, man. So there's a thing I do on this show now called unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell me who you have unsolicited advice for and what is that unsolicited advice. And in our 4 Brady Bunch squares, we'll go ahead and start at the upper hand. And why don't you go ahead and give me your unsolicited advice for the day?
Unsolicited advice for the day: shut up and listen to marginalized voices. You don't know everything. And that's okay. Just listen to the people who do. That's all. Jahi said it before me. I just think it's really important. So.
Hey, I appreciate that. Jada?
Unsolicited advice. Mental health is important. It's probably more important than physical health. And our friend Kanye right now is the poster child. And this is not funny at all.
No,
It's
really
sad. And it's just horrible that it's playing out in front of the whole world to see.
Oh my God.
It's heartbreaking.
It really,
it was what it is. And there's no compassion for the fact that he's so ill.
Absolutely.
I can't lie. I thought it was hilarious at the very beginning. I just did a show 2 weeks ago talking about Kanye West's birthday party because he said he was running for president under the birthday party. And so if you look at one of the earlier episodes, the thumbnail is Kanye West with a MAGA birthday hat on and 2 birthday plates. And it is at the time because I'm thinking like, oh, it's this Kanye being Kanye. And then you realize you see more of the spiral and you're like, wait, this isn't funny. This guy has problems. And I think, and this is just me and I'm not a professional. I'm just somebody who observes things in society and try to make it make sense. And so I look at how he made the shift in his music to gospel. And I think, you know, people, especially in the Black community, turn to religion when they know they have problems because in our community, by and large, religion is the only acceptable outlet for mental health and mental therapy. And so I look at that now and say to myself, is that why he made that why he made that strong shift in his music? Because he was searching for something to help him out. And we see him today and I'm like, man, he, you know, I feel for him in a way that for years I didn't. Like, I was like, man, I just don't like that guy. I don't like his beliefs. And I think he's detrimental to my community and people who look like me. You know, the Van Jones, TMZ, where Van Jones cussed him out for him saying slavery was a choice and an option. And Van Jones basically saying, man, you broke my heart because of who you represented to us. And you were the guy that got on and said George Bush doesn't care about Black people. And now you're saying slavery is a choice. Like, you morphed into something that has broken my heart and probably broken the hearts of a lot of your fans. And then you see today, and it's just a further and deeper and darker spiral. And you're absolutely right. Mental health is a real thing. And, you know, I have shifted how I feel about Kanye West because he is not well, you know, and just like somebody who isn't a celebrity, you know, you can have empathy for them. You can have empathy for him as well, you know.
Absolutely, because money can't buy that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. No.
Was that it, Jada? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope, that's it.
Okay, Aaron, unsolicited advice.
Immerse yourself in any community or culture that you are uncomfortable with.
Oh, good one.
The only way you're going to really understand it, that's the only way that you're going to start thinking of those people as people, if that's a problem for you. You know, just like you're talking about with watching Pose, like exposing yourself to that stuff and honestly being around people, it just automatically clicks on, oh, these are just normal people like me, and you know,
yeah, right. Doing normal things, like you're like,
right.
oh, like, oh, they eat Thanksgiving dinner. Like, are you like, come on, man, are you a moron? And I'm talking to myself, like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, and even people who aren't especially racist or homophobic or whatever, people who are just like white people who have never been exposed to that kind of community or never been around a group of gay people or a group of Black people, and they're being there, just being in the middle of it makes such a huge difference.
You're absolutely right. I had a guy, and he was talking about how, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement was a violent movement to overthrow society and all this nonsense. And I was just like, you know, we had a long back and forth, and then he was saying, well, this is what they stand for. I was like, but you know, every group is its own group. I was like, so here's the groups that are in your area, and this is they have their charter of what they believe in. Here, join their group and see if you still believe that. So you're absolutely right, Aaron. You know, immerse yourself in things. Make a point to do it, because it will make you a worse person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if anything is making you feel like that's the other, I mean, you think of them as people, but you're like, that's the other and this is my group. That will screw that up really fast. There's no way to maintain that kind of othering once you're in that group, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you'll realize, like, there are things you have that are different, and there are things that you have in common as well. And there's probably a lot of things that you share that you don't realize that you share, and you may walk away with a great deal of respect for people and a new friend. So so my unsolicited advice is for the Second Amendment crowd. So you've been talking all this stuff for years about how you got all these guns, and you got a wall in your house that if you bang it, you know, the wall drops away, and there's all these AR-15s and rocket launchers, and it's go time, and you're ready for some Book of Eli type shit, right? Some, you're looking for the day that the T-1000 from Terminator shows up. You are ready. You talked about when Armageddon is going to happen, or when The Walking Dead comes, you'll be able to go to the store and steal all the food, right? And then Trump shows up with unlabeled and clandestine military and unmarked vehicles, and they're snatching citizens that have committed no crimes off the street with no Miranda rights, no statement of the crimes that they've committed. Look, bro, look, sis, this is the day that you've been waiting for. Where is all that energy? Where is the NRA's voice today about their Second Amendment rights? Like, you got those guns. You told me all these years that you got the Second Amendment. Thank God for the Second Amendment, because you can protect the other amendments with the Second Amendment. So where are you today? Like, I'm not even saying you got to be that spicy to get the guns and run out to the street like you did with the coronavirus. But damn, can you get on Twitter?
Right.
You know, can you flex those keyboard bullets? Can you, I mean, where are you? I'm saying get out there and get active, you know?
And it's not it shows that it was never about the Second Amendment.
Correct.
No.
It's okay because it's happening to the other people.
Right.
You know, all they cared about in their case was maintaining some kind of power when the world is against them, you know? But they're totally fine with all of this authoritarian secret police stuff as long as it doesn't affect them.
Yeah. And the whole statement was, and I forget who said it first, they came for this group and I didn't care. And then they came for that group. We are living it. We're living it. We're living it. So, you know, I look at it and say to myself, like, where are you? All the conservatives who talk about I don't want to elect a Democrat because they're going to bring in all their Marxist, fascist, socialist, communist, they like any of them. And they'll say he's a socialist communist. Well, those are two different things. Which are they? But I mean, we don't need to go into that. I'm just saying, like, if you're really about all of that, if you're really about that life, where are you today? Because you can't tell me it's, you know, these are American ideals and apple pie, Betsy Ross sewn in actions that your president is taking right now. So if you really cared about your country like that, if you're really a patriot, quit waving that flag and actually, you know, don't get mad at Kaepernick for kneeling during the anthem. Why don't you, you know, ensure that the president that you back is living up to the ideals of the flag that he's spending all that time hugging on stage?
Oh, I forgot he did that.
He's done it on multiple occasions. I mean, I wonder if the flag gave consent, you know?
Probably not in his case.
If I were the flag, I wouldn't.
Yeah, no.
And so, yeah, I just want to thank you guys for coming on today. I had fun. It's really great talking to each and every one of you. You know, contact information will be on the screen. You'll see it. If you want to reach out to any of them, feel free to do so. They're great, wonderful people. Buy Anne Stagg's books wherever you're. And what's the website again?
Blesse.co is where you can find my Mound of Gaia series for free. You can read my essays and some free porn on my website, annestagwrites.com. And I have a publication, short story coming out in Cleese Press's Best Bondage Erotica of the Year next year. So when that comes out, check it out. There are tentacles and spaceships.
Okay.
As aliens get it into.
Very queer aliens. Oh, shit.
This has been fun. I really appreciate you guys for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
It was great to meet you guys, too.
Likewise.